Hey, before this video starts, I just want to let you know that these are my predictions and my predictions only. Enjoy. So the Boston Bruins made a couple of really interesting moves on July 1, and the Bruins now have a pretty interesting setup roster. So let's take a look at the roster, and let's try to construct a lineup for next season as of what they have right now. Pastrnak! Score! So let's take a look at the subtractions for what they lost. They didn't lose a ton. They lost a lot of depth. They lost Cole Koepke. They lost Vinny Lettieri, Brandon Bussi, Parker Wotherspoon, just to name a few. And the Bruins, they bring in a lot of depth to their bottom six, so much so it's created a big logjam and a question mark as to who is going to be in the lineup on opening night. Let's take a look at some of the players that could be in the lineup on opening night. Well, the first line looks quite easy to actually break down. The first line is going to be consisting, in my opinion, of Elias Lindholm at center, Morgan Geekie on the left wing, and David Pastrnak on the right wing. We saw them together near the end of the season this past year, and we saw Elias Lindholm come into his own and get more comfortable as the 1C, and it really started to show off the dynamic that he and Pastrnak have. Elias Lindholm went into the World Championships for Sweden and had a really good tournament, having the most goals out of anybody in the tournament as a third liner for Sweden. So Elias Lindholm, along with David Pastrnak and the newly re-signed Morgan Geekie for the next 6 years, these three are going to be your top line next season, and they're going to be probably the driving force of your main offense next year for the Boston Bruins. Next up on the list is our second line, and well, it looks a little different than what it looked like at the end of last season. So first of all, in the middle is going to be Casey Mittelstadt. Now, Casey Mittelstadt was brought in the Charlie Coyle deal at the trade deadline. He was brought in along with Will Zellers, who's going to the University of North Dakota next year, and a 2026 second-round pick. Casey Mittelstadt is here through the 26-27 season at a $5.25 million cap hit. Casey Mittelstadt was brought in, and he's actually looked pretty good for the Bruins so far. There was rumors they were going to try to flip him at the draft. Nothing came of it, so it looks like Mittelstadt is going to be the second-line center for next season. The second-line left wing is going to be none other than Pavel Zacha. Now, barring a trade, Pavel Zacha will be in the second line with Casey Mittelstadt next season. Pavel Zacha has been with the Bruins since the 2022-2023 season as he was acquired from the New Jersey Devils in exchange for Eric Haula. And Zacha has been a key part to their offense the past few years, has come up big when needed, and Zacha has just been a nice piece to deal with David Pastrnak. Now, this is going to be the first time that they're going to be apart for a long time, according to my offensive lineup structure, but I think he's going to play well with Mittelstadt and this man. The newly acquired Victor Arvidsson is going to be your second-line right wing as of next season. Victor Arvidsson brought in a trade with the Edmonton Oilers for a fifth-round pick, and he's going to bring something to the table that the Bruins have been lacking, and that's middle six consistency. Victor Arvidsson coming from the Oilers, who were just in the Stanley Cup final this past year. He really knows how to win, and he knows how to put the puck in the back of the net. He also has a really great shot off the rush. I can imagine him and Zacha being a pain to deal with on either side of the ice on an odd man rush. So that is your top six for the Bruins offense as of right now. My third-line center is a surprise, but it's not really that much of a surprise based off what we saw at the end of last season. It's going to be Fraser Minten. He's going to be your third-line center on opening night. I just really like the way Minten plays, and I think the Bruins do as well. I really like the game that Minten brings to the Bruins offense. He plays a kind of a two-way game, kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Patrice Bergeron type game, where he's really defensively smart in his own zone and also knows how to put the puck in the back of the net. When he was with Providence this past year, he was really, really solid in that department. And I think his scoring touch will grow and develop with more time in the NHL. On the left side, they're going to bring in the newly signed Tanner Jeannot to the third line. He brought in on a 5-year deal at $3.4 million per season. Now, Tanner Jeannot was kind of a big question mark for the Bruins. Why would they sign him? Why would they do that? Well, let's kind of explain why. I think what the Bruins' idea was trying to get a little more hefty in the middle six. And I think that Tanner Jeannot is just that. He is going to bring some physicality, and he's going to protect Minton and the right wing that's going to be on this line. And I think it's going to be really good for Minton and this other gentleman to have somebody like Tanner Jeannot on their line, the enforcer who will protect these two young kids. The third line right wing is going to be Matthew Poitras. Matthew Poitras has been with the Bruins organization for a few years now, made his NHL debut in the 23-24 season, and Matt Poitras to me is a guy that is going to be really fighting for a roster spot against guys like Fabian Lysell and Johnny Beecher, and I think Matt Poitras is going to beat them out, and he's going to be the third line right wing. And people are saying, well, why put him on the wing when he's known as a center? Incorrect. He actually played right wing for a lot of his career so far. He's just been playing center in the NHL. So Poitras going back to his natural right wing will really actually possibly elevate his scoring touch, which is something that he could use. So your third line, Minton in the middle, Jeannot on the left side, and Poitras on the right side. And now your fourth line, the big question mark. Johnny Beecher might be involved. Cole Koepke's gone. Where does Mark Kastelik fit in? I have the answer right now. And your fourth line center is going to be none other than the returning to Boston, Sean Kuraly, your fourth line center. Now, Sean Kuraly is going to be your fourth line center because he's been in that position for the Bruins and for the Blue Jackets the past few years, and I think Kuraly knows what it takes to win. He's been in Boston before, knows the system, knows the organization well, and I think he's going to bring bring his game, which is a smartly played game a lot of the time, to this organization and to this team. And under Marco Sturm, he's going to be a really solid piece of the puzzle for the next 2 years, in my opinion. Your fourth line left wing is going to be Michael Eyssimont, also signed to a 2-year deal, this one under $1.5 million. I think Eysimont's going to be your fourth line left wing. He might jump up into the third line if he starts playing really well, but he's going to be replacing where Cole Koepke was for a lot of the season in that fourth line left wing role, and I think Koepke is going to be missed, but I think Eyssimont is going to bring a little more scoring and a little more speed and a little more physicality to that fourth line, which is, I think, what the Bruins are looking for. Whether that's the right move or not, that's what the Bruins are looking for, and that's the type of game they're bringing to their team. So Eyssimont brought in on the fourth line as the left wing. And the fourth line right wing is going to be none other than Mark Kastelik. Mark Kastelik is going to be back. He's under a 3-year deal now at $1.57 million a season, and I think Mark Kastelik is going to be back better than ever. Had a really solid first year with the Bruins, acquired in the Ullmark trade, and I think he's going to be another one of those cases of forces to be reckoned with on the ice. With Jeannot and Kastelik and your bottom six, your guys are going to be protected, and I think Kastelik, he has speed, he has physicality, he can score here and there, and I think that fourth line is going to be more of the enforcer line, if you will, than more of an offensively based line, which is kind of what we saw last year out of the fourth line. It's going to be a little bit of a different system brought into the fourth line, but Kastelik is still going to bring it 100% every night. I forgot. Who is going to be the extra forwards for the Bruins next season? Well, it's going to be Marat Husnudinov and Johnny Beecher. Now, Johnny Beecher, to me, is someone that is on his last chance to be a Bruin. Re-sign on a 1-year deal. They're going to try to implement him throughout the lineup, mainly in the fourth line. I just don't see enough, based off the things we've seen the last 2 years out of Beecher, enough to say, hey, this guy is going to be an NHLer for the long run. He's a first-round pick, which is why a lot of the reason why I think he got another year, just to see if it's, hey, was that a fluke, or is this, kind of what we're going to get? So I think this would be his last chance, and if he doesn't prove himself, he's out the door. So that's what I think is going to happen. And with Murat Husnudinov, I think Husnudinov is going to bring some speed. I would not be surprised if he's the 13th forward, rotating in and out of the lineup. I just think Husnudinov is going to bring something to the table that the Bruins have been missing, and we saw it in the final 6 weeks of the season last year when he was acquired from Minnesota in the Brazo deal. I think he can score, he has speed, and he knows how to work himself out of situations along the wall, and I think he's going to be implemented that. Now, we could see Husnudinov in the lineup more than Isamont or Jeannot or whatever, and that's fine. Just know that they're probably going to put Jeannot and Isamont in the lineup more, but Husnudinov could definitely see 30 or 35 games in the NHL next year if he is warranted. Now on to the defense. What is the defense going to look like? Well, it starts with your top left defenseman, and that is going to be the newly re-signed Mason Lohrei. A 2-year deal at $3.2 million a season. Lohrei on a bridge deal right now, and I think Lohrei is going to prove himself this year. He had the worst plus-minus of any defenseman in the NHL last year, but that was because the entire team was bad last year. I think Lohrei, with a healthy McAvoy next to him and a healthy team in front of him, and he has another summer in Boston where he's developing his defensive game, I think he's going to be much better than what we saw last year. We saw what he was at his rookie year in 23-24, and he was much better than what we saw last year. And I think Lohrei is going to bring more of his offensive touch to his game as well. And I think he and McAvoy together on that first defensive pairing, which is what we're going to do, Lohrei and McAvoy, the first defensive pairing, is going to be really something special to see. So I think give it a shot. Give it a shot and see what happens. On the second pairing, I am going with Hampus Lindholm and Andrew Peeke. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying, well, why Peeke? Well, I think Lindholm on the second pairing is going to help the defense and its stability. And giving a guy like Hampus Lindholm to a guy like Andrew Peeke is going to help Peake's game along. I think Peeke is defensively sound in his own zone. I just think he needs to work on his more offensive push of the game. And I think playing with a guy like Hampus Lindholm will elevate his offensive mindset going into the game. So I think he's going to turn into more of a two-way defenseman, as long as Lindholm's tendencies rub off on Peeke, and I think they will, as long as he is presented with the opportunity to do so. So Lindholm and Peeke is my second defensive pairing for next season. My third defensive pairing is going to be Nikita Zadorov and Henri Jokiharju, who was brought back on a 3-year deal at $3 million a season. Zadorov going into year 2 of a 6-year deal at $5 million a season. This is going to be your shutdown defensive pairing. We saw them together for the final 6 weeks of the season last year, and we saw something really special. We saw chemistry out of Zadorov and Jokiharju, and I think they're going to try to run that back together this year. I liked Jokiharju. I was kind of wondering if they were going to re-sign him. They did. So now, for right now, Zadorov and Jokiharju are your third defensive pairing. And also, the reason why I structured the defense the way it is because if you have one of McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, and Nikita Zadorov on the ice at all times defensively, you're fine. You're going to be okay. And Lohrei and Jokiharju can be more of the offensively minded defenseman while having Andrew Peeke as that shutdown defenseman in your middle. That's a really solidly set up defense. And your extra defenseman is going to be Jordan Harris, brought in on a 1-year deal, a one-way at $825. Jordan Harris, a Haverhill kid. You know the Bruins, and they love their local guys. But I think this guy is going to be your 7th defenseman. It sucks to be a guy like Michael Callahan, who was probably slotted in to be your 7th defenseman next year, and he kind of gets overridden by Jordan Harris, who's only been in the NHL. He has not been in the AHL, came right from the juniors right to the NHL in Montreal, went to Columbus in the Line A deal, and now is going to be the Bruins' 7th defenseman. So, but I wouldn't be discouraged if I'm Michael Callahan. I'm still going to be seeing some games next year with injuries and whatnot, so I wouldn't be too discouraged. But definitely was not expecting to sign another defenseman, but Jordan Harris is going to be your 7th defenseman. next season. He'll probably be seeing 20, 25 games next year for the Bruins. And your goalie tandem. I have, of course, Jeremy Swayman as the Bruins starter for next season, as he is going to be going in a year 2 of an 8-year deal. And my backup. Big question mark. Are they going to do it with DiPietro? And they are. I have a feeling the Bruins are going to be moving Korpisalo here. I don't know how they're going to move it. I just don't see the Bruins holding DiPietro back another year in the minors, especially if it's a one-way deal out of camp. He would require waivers to go to the AHL, and I don't think he would clear waivers. So the Bruins are going to try to figure out a way to move Korpisalo, and they're going to, whether they buy out his contract or they're going to trade him somewhere. I think DiPietro will have the backup job behind Swayman next season. I'm just wondering how do you move Korpisalo? And I think a lot of people, I think we're going to get some answers relatively shortly on that. I don't know what a return for Korpisalo would be. That's not my forte. Maybe a pick or two. But DiPietro is going to be the backup to Swayman next season. So with Marco Sturm behind the bench now as their new head coach, I think they're going to be seeing more of an offensively minded game and a defensively minded game. They're gonna have a more consistent game, and I think that's a good thing for all parties involved. Let's take a look at what the Bruins' power play could look like. With the addition of Victor Arvidsson and with Morgan Geekie and Pastrnak building chemistry, what in the world could the Bruins' power play look like? I have an answer right now. Your top power play unit is going to start with Casey Middlestat as your first power play center. We saw what the power play looked like post-trade deadline, putting Middlestat on the first unit instead of Elias Lindholm, and it worked. So we're going to put Middlestat as the first-line center. Obviously, Morgan Geekie is going to be on the first unit. He's going to be out there on the left wing. He's going to be out there as the left wing on that power play, ready for a one-timer from that far side circle. That's where I think Geekie will fit in. David Pastrnak is going to be on the power play, but not working the one-timer. If I'm the Bruins, I'm working him on the right point as a threat from the blue line with that filthy wrist shot he has. I would rather see Pastrnak rip a wrist shot than have a one-timer 100 times, because it's turning into the Ovechkin story and teams are picking up on it. So try to move Pastrnak over to the right side is what I would do to try to work his wrist shot into the power play. Your last forward on the first power play is going to be Pavel Zacha. We've seen Zacha and Pasternak's chemistry in the past, and I think Zacha is going to bring a little bit of Pasternak's game out. Zacha is going to be your bumper on the power play. Middlestat will be your net front presence. So if we draw it up, it's going to be Geekie on the left circle, Zacha as the bumper, Pastrnak right side circle, Middlestat in front. And your defenseman on that power play is going to be Mason Lohrei on the first power play unit. I liked Lohrei on the power play unit. I like the way it looked with Lohrei out there. So I think they're going to stick with Lohrei out there on the first power play unit. And yeah, it should be pretty interesting. The second power play unit is going to look a little different than what we saw the last year. I'm starting with Elias Lindholm as the second line power play center. Lindholm is going to be working the bumper mainly on the power play, ready for that one-timer, and I'm ready to see Lindholm actually utilize the bumper to his advantage. And I think they're going to do that with having him at the second line center on the power play. We move to the right wing, and it's going to be Victor Arvidsson on the second power play unit as the right wing, and I like Arvidsson's game a lot, and I think it's going to bring out the best in Lindholm. It's going to bring out the best in each other, so I think it's going to be really good to have Arvidsson out there. Next, we are going to be bringing in Matt Poitras on the second power play unit. Poitras on the power play is sneaky good, and I think Poitras is going to be doing something very special with Lindholm and Arvidsson on the second unit. And another forward on this power play unit is going to be Fraser Minten. Poitras and Minten worked together in Providence on the power play this past year and looked pretty solid together, and I like the way Minten fits in on a power play unit in Boston. So Patra, Minton, Lindholm, and Arvidsson on the power play, and your second line power play defenseman, Hampus Lindholm. I am not a fan of McAvoy on the power play. I'm just not. I would move away from it. Lohrei and Lindholm, the quarterback in the power play, will be better for the offense. I think Lindholm as your second line power play defenseman is going to be much better, because we saw Lindholm on the first unit last year, and I saw a better power play with Lindholm quarterbacking it than I did with Charlie McAvoy. So yeah, Hampus Lindholm will be on the second power play unit. And if Lindholm plays better than Lohrei, we could easily swap that around. Lindholm could be on the first unit, no problem, and Lohrei could be on the second unit, no problem as well. So based off of this roster projection, the Bruins, I don't quite know if they're going to be a playoff team, but they're going to be much better than what we saw in the last season. I'm wondering to see any strides they're going to make. I'm wondering to see how good of a team they're going to be, especially with my projection. David Pastrnak will be the next captain of the Boston Bruins. I wonder how that leadership is going to go into this year. I wonder to see how that's going to happen. So all is going to be answered coming up here in just a few months at the start of the NHL season, 25-26. Cannot believe it that we are coming soon. Season 6 of Bruins coverage coming this fall, and you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be the best season yet. The Bruins look like an interesting hockey team, and I'm wondering to see how they're going to do it this year. And one more question. Is James Higgins going to be in the NHL this year? Well, I think that he is going to do a Charlie McAvoy type year. He's going to play at BC this year, and then at the end of the BC season, if the Bruins are on the push for a playoff spot, he's going to sign his ELC and come right into the NHL and join the Bruins for the playoff push. I could see him sign his ELC this summer and play with the Bruins full-time next year, but I think it'd be better for another year at BC, and hopefully, as long as he's completely healthy, he'll join the NHL roster after BC's season is over. That is what I think Higgins should do. Where would James Higgins fit into the lineup? Well, he would bump everybody down, and as I think he would be the second or third line center is where I would fit in James Higgins to start, as he is going to be the future cornerstone of this offense. Imagine Geeky playing with Pastrnak and Higgins. Oh, that line would be a filthy trio and would be a force to be reckoned with. Oh my God, don't even get me started. That is it for today's video. If you liked what you saw, make sure to please smash the like button and subscribe to my channel, as we are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. Make sure, if you have not yet, ring the bell to get notified every single time we go live or upload here on this YouTube channel. If you want to see more of me, you can go follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and on X, all on Sam Smith on YT. Links are all down below in the description. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.